Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. Folks, I was reading some material today that talks about how much the African-American community has lost since Trump has been back in office. It was heartbreaking. It was sad. It was an article, and that article just had me, again, it just had me sad. Because the losses are mounting up for our community. And we're not even through the first year of this man's administration. And it caused me to think that there has been no community that has been so bamboozled by a politician like Donald Trump bamboozled the African American community. Now, of course, he had help. He had a lot of help within the African American community. People who were out here pumping him up and tearing down first Hillary Clinton, then Joe Biden, and then Kamala Harris, and a whole lot of folk with our skin color. A lot. And since then, the losses have been mounting. We lost as far back as 2016. Don't misunderstand me. But the losses in 2024, which are a direct consequence of Project 2025, which you all know, you've been with the channel now, you know that I spent all last year making video after video after video after video about Project 2025 and warning you not to do this. And we're not going to be able to repair or to fix this until we take a hard look at it, until we get the message out to other African Americans that, yes, 92% of us, of the sisters, voted for Kamala and against Trump. And I shout you out for that. And 80% of African American men voted for Kamala in opposition to Donald Trump. But what they did that I keep trying to tell you is they know they don't need a majority. They don't need 50% of us voting for Trump or for whoever comes next. They don't need that. They need exactly what they got, 20% this last election. And the first time it was only 8%. They just need to shave off a certain percentage. And the thing that gets me in this article is, and by the way, a whole lot of black people didn't vote in 2016, 2020. 2020 was a little more of an exception. But a whole lot didn't vote in 2024. So 92%, as you've heard me say, 92% of a half of an orange is still just half of an orange. But the thing that really, really got me just infuriated is what Trump said when he was campaigning for the 2016 election. Let's see if you remember this.
No group in America has been more harmed by Hillary Clinton's policies than African Americans. No group. No group. If Hillary Clinton's goal was to inflict pain on the African American community, she could not have done a better job. It's a disgrace. Tonight, I'm asking for the vote of every single African American citizen in this country who wants to see a better future. Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose? I say it again. What do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose? America must reject the bigotry of Hillary Clinton, who sees communities of color only as votes, not as human beings worthy of a better future.
Sad, 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 sad. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Hillary's policies have been so horrible for the black people. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Over and over and over, he said that. And then the way he said all that, your schools are no good. Your communities are no good. Your neighborhoods are no good. You're no good, basically. So what do you have to do? You are already on the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the totem pole. What do you have to lose? You ain't got anything anyway. So what do you have to lose voting for me? That was amazing that he said that and said it that way. Wow. Again, you know, I warned you. I told you last year what we had to lose. I told you what we had to lose. And man, have we lost a lot. And I'm going to list some of the things that we have already lost in this first, not even a full year. Civil rights enforcement. Gone. And see, the thing with that is he doesn't have to really change the civil rights laws. Just don't enforce them. It amounts to the same thing. He knows he needs Congress to actually change those statutes. And he doesn't have the votes to get the statutes changed. So what he does is issue an executive order where he has ordered the DOJ and the Education Department and so on, just simply do not enforce civil rights violations of African American people. That's what he's done. So we've lost civil rights enforcement. Education Department layoffs hit offices that oversee special education and civil rights enforcement. And it's really important that we have civil rights enforcement in the Education Department. I wrote a book about that. When schools mistreat African American children on a macro level, we need to be able, and a micro level, we need to be able to contact the Education Department and tell them that we believe our civil rights have been violated so that they can look into it, investigate it, and try to correct it and remedy it. We get your calls on a daily basis asking about, can we help with this civil rights situation or that civil rights situation? And as you know, many of you, we can't because of what they're doing to the civil rights enforcement of this country. I could go on and on with that. Police misconduct cases. I mean, they've basically told the police, do whatever you want to do. Do whatever you want to do. So then they get out there and do some of this stuff, beat up people, use excessive force, shoot and kill people. And blacks are 5 times more likely to be shot and killed by police officers. And then you want to go to them and ask them to help because your civil rights have been violated. They're going to tell you no because they're the ones who told the cops to go out there and do what you want to do in the first place. Talking about what have we lost now that Trump is back in office, because he asked us, what do you have to lose? Well, first thing is civil rights enforcement. Second thing is fair housing rights enforcement. He has a man in HUD, an African-American man. In fact, 2 of them, I did a video on this a couple of weeks ago, who are refusing to enforce an extremely important rule, the AFFH rule, the Affirmative Furthering of Fair Housing rule that Obama put in place. And he did that. He did this, in fact, back in his first administration, refused in fact, rescinded the rule and refused to enforce it. So with housing discrimination, with them in office, we've lost that enforcement. So the statute is still there, but it's useless if you're not enforcing it. I'm talking about what do we have to lose? That's what he asked us. He knew the whole time that he was saying that we would lose a lot with what he was bringing. That's why I said we were bamboozled, because the African-American community, especially young black men, were not listening to the right people. Voting rights. Voting rights. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is likely gone or severely, it's already been attacked, but severely harmed, if not completely gutted. That's what the hearing was about yesterday. All of this pursuant to Project 2025. Job losses. What else do we have to lose? Job losses. So far, civil rights enforcement, fair housing enforcement, voting rights, sections of the Voting Rights Act, job losses. Hundreds of thousands of blacks have lost their jobs since Trump has been back in office because he has used his anti-DEI policies to go after black jobs. And do you remember him saying that the Latinos in the country are taking black jobs? Well, I want you to see me real carefully and look me right in the eyes when I say this. The only one taking black jobs is Trump himself. Trump himself. Hundreds of thousands of them. And we're not even through the first year. And what is that going to do? That's going to affect black wealth and so much other stuff in our community. The black unemployment rate has surged in just the past few months. Last time we saw jobs numbers, I don't even know if we'll get to see jobs numbers again. Black unemployment was 7.5, had increased from like 6% when he first came in office. I think lower than that, actually. What have we got to lose? A lot. Also, representation in key spaces, because he's firing a whole lot of black people in key spots. Right? Like General Charles Brown. So we don't have that representation anymore in the military because he got rid of the highest ranking black officer in the military, removed him from his position as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Got rid of a National Labor Relations Board member, an African-American woman. Got rid of Lisa Cook. At least he attempted. That's on hold for right now, but he's gunning for. Okay? Got rid of this lady, Dr. Carla Hayden. She was the Librarian of Congress. And that's really important. That's a very important position because it stewards black history for the country. And so with her gone, they're able now to severely reduce black history and pick out the pieces they don't like and put in the pieces they do like. And this lady, Dr. Lisa Cook, obviously we needed black representation on the Federal Reserve Board because it manages the nation's wealth and banks and so much more. And he's trying to take away that representation. Education rights. I mean, just closing the Department of Education is having a profound impact. I heard Stephen A. Smith say the Department of Education wasn't really helping an African-American student, so it's no problem that it's gone. I'm telling you, that dude needs to stick to sports. Sports, he has instant credibility. Been doing it for years, started as a beat reporter, my understanding is. But when he gets over into this space, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And you can't learn what you need to talk about by reading stuff online and listening to people online and so forth. No, this needs to be your space where you're studying, where you're writing, where you have some expertise. He has none. Closing the Department of Education is absolutely impacting African-American students. Because first of all, we go back to civil rights enforcement. They basically gutted that office. And then data. We need the data that they keep. The data is very important. Special education, a lot of our children are in special education. They need the support of the Department of Education. And again, the data is so important. So we know where things are, so we know how well things are going. We don't know that without the data, the evidence. My book is full of data. Because when we take actions, we need to take evidence-based actions, not from the seat of our pants. What else have we lost? So we lost those things with the Department of Education. We lost the data. We lost special education help. We lost civil rights enforcement. All of that. We need it so badly, especially when states are doing such a poor job educating African-American students. Only 10 to 12% of black 8th graders read on the 8th grade level. And that's happening on the local level. The Department of Education is needed to steward that, to watch over that, to try to ensure that states are doing what they're mandated and get funding to do. And speaking of funding, they're taking the funding that the Department of Education would give to low-income minority-serving schools and giving that to the states so that, and you know what's going to happen to that? They're going to send it to white school districts. Free speech. I mean, basically, so many people, big time, rich people, corporations, law firms, and so on, are afraid to exercise their First Amendment right to free speech. And that has really impacted the African American community. Somebody told me the other day, I was doing an interview, radio interview, and they said, Reverend Corbett, I went to a No Kings rally, and the one group of people we didn't see were blacks. And this was a black person. I said, yeah, because the attack on free speech and the threat of using the Insurrection Act and all these ICE agents and law enforcement and so forth out here doing things, it seems that a lot of blacks have decided that it's best for them to stay home. Well, that's just being fearful. Man, look at what our ancestors endured when they stood up. And so now we're just going to stop using and exercising our First Amendment rights because of the administration that's in office. How much worse do you think it was for our ancestors on the plantation? And once again, we got these black content creators telling blacks to stay home, don't get involved, using scare tactics. That's what we need to be doing right there. Doing it legally, doing it peacefully. We need to be speaking out, because the further and further and further this country goes into the throes and down the road of authoritarianism, it will impact us most. Us, meaning African Americans. Affordable health care. We're losing that. The big ugly bill. The big ugly bill will hit blacks disproportionately. And we're not necessarily talking about just the working poor. That's what the Democrats are fighting now for those who are on the Affordable Care Act and are using the exchange to find affordable health care, that's going to double. And that's why the Democrats refuse to sign this CR. What else? We're losing environmental protection, which is extremely important for us. This is not something most African Americans even think about. But when they're building these toxic corporations, they put them in our community. When they need a dump, a landfill, where do they put them? In our community. And what does that do? Contaminate our water and our air. So we need the EPA. We need environmental protection. But we are losing that. So when Trump says, what do you have to lose? I'm scratching the surface in the things that I've shared with you so far. Black history. Black history. Black history. So how important is Black history? It is extremely important for this country to know. And starting with our young people who obviously don't know Black history the way they should. And then with them rolling back Black history even more, my Lord. And of course, white kids need to know Black history so that there's never a return to where God has brought us from. And that is part of my concern. Because if we don't remember Black history, it is subject to being repeated. And let me show you how true that really is. Because had the growing, increasing number of African American men, especially the younger ones, been acutely aware of our history, they would have said no to efforts to keep them from voting. Had they known our history, they would have known that voting is crucial and critical to our fight and struggle for racial equality. And they would have been able to therefore critically think and drown out the pro-Black imposters who told them not to vote or that voting means nothing. That goes back to a lack of understanding of Black history. And here they are, the Trump administration, trying to get rid of what little Black history there is being taught in public schools. We got bamboozled, folks, and we will do ourselves a huge, huge service when we admit it and spread that information and tell others so that they will not once again make that mistake. Because in about a year from now, we're going to have the opportunity, hopefully, to pull the lever again. And we got to show up in numbers greater than 50 or 60%. We got to show up in big numbers because, as you see, we're the ones who lose the most. Some of you sometimes say, well, why do you continue to focus on Blacks who voted for Trump when Latinos voted for Trump in large numbers, and of course, whites voted for Trump in large numbers? Because we lose the most. This fight has always been about African Americans, and they know that out of all the minorities in the country, our group has the largest number who vote, who can vote. Let me put it that way. About 35 million Black folks are eligible to vote. And so they know, unlike any other minority community, they got to keep a certain percentage of us from voting. So yes, we had a lot to lose, and we're losing a lot, and there are more losses coming. The thing that I see is to peacefully protest and be prepared to vote, help get others registered to vote, other blacks. Those are some of the things that we can be doing. All right, I'm Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video, and remember, stay woke.